associated to some of the agitations that are ongoing in our country, particularly political agitations. And this has kind of affected and infected the minds of our citizens as well. And so the average Boya person is very sensitive to happenings around our country. And when that happens, as you rightly put it, they are in a state of uncertainty. And mind you, we are just getting out of what has been commonly known as the Anglophone crisis. And Boya was not an exception as well in that very tumultuous moment between the years of 2016 to up till now that the pressure or the atmosphere is getting better than it was in later years. And so it is not going to be completely wiped out from their minds within a twinkle of an eye. It is a gradual process. It is progressively ebbing out, and we are now already grappling with how we should put ourselves together for a post-crisis environment, for a post-crisis re-emergence, as I can put it. And so when you say I should talk about the socio-political climate or this atmosphere of uncertainty in Boya, you are right. And again, you should also realize that people are now more assured of a better sleep and a happier day than it was 2, 3, 4 years ago.
What about reports of harassment? Young people, some city dwellers, by security operatives, and by some individuals. There's one of them who is a traditional leader of Wassa village. I'm sure you know him, and also an element of the Rapid Intervention Battalion. Lots of harassment, arresting people, killing some of the people, and things like that.
Moja did not break into university hostels to pull out students and kill them. I have done my findings. I have gotten into the depths of this incident. Moja was returning from Equinoxe and found corpses of dreaded criminals displayed at a certain locality around Moya. Whatever happened with those corpses and Moja, I will not get to that, but he was not a killer. Take it from me, and I will say it anyway. Today we are beginning to have disclosures on the background story of what actually happened from those who are related to the corpses we saw and those who had relevant information on this particular situation. We should, for anybody in his right thinking, not for the sake of achieving cheap popularity and, trying to paint Moja black. He who came to Boya from Douala, I am sure you must have come across Moja. Moja, to the best of my knowledge, is in search of criminals. You can understand and underscore the number of chiefs that have been brutally assassinated by criminal elements in our community. Let us be serious here. If the target was chiefs and Moja is a chief and privileged to be the chief of a village as well as a trained military officer, should Moja Moja sit hands folded and wait for him to be the next on the line? Of course, we should help him. He has a temperament that needs our assistance in one way or the other.
Some lawyers dragged him to court for gross violations.
Well, good thing they went to court. We should have confidence in our courts. We should also trust our legal system. Let us see how far that goes. They will have to defend their statements. They will have to prove their cases. And of course, I will advise Moja Moja to be calm and face all of this with what is the truth and measure up in the true spirit of a respected traditional ruler.
All right, we're going to talk now about the recent flooding in the town of Boya,
Yes.
Which caused some massive destruction and some deaths also in the Boya town and Bova village. And as we speak today, many persons in Bova village in particular are still at risk if such a thing was to repeat itself. First of all, as a former mayor of Boya, someone who masters the municipality of Boya, what's your analysis of that incident and the consequences, and the fact that several homes suffered huge consequences, particularly homes that were established on the waterway, business sites that were established on the waterways?
Public officials have established, Babila, an assessment of what actually happened on that fateful Saturday. I was in town myself. I was in church and was held hostage in church by this very severe storm and rainfall that ignited the overflow from the mountain. Going by what authorities have established, this was made worse by haphazard constructions along waterways in town. You are talking about Bova, but the Boya town area was the hardest hit, and it was the epicenter of this floods that we registered in town last week. By going by all of what is said by our traditional authorities and public officials, scientific research, and so on, you can, on the one hand, imagine that this whole occurrence had the coloration of some mystical undertones, because it was so devastating, and it left many of us citizens of Boya wondering what the future holds for us, imagining that this is coming in the month of March when we don't yet have the heavy rains that Boya is noted for.
Something has to be done, yes, and be done very quickly, especially for I go back to Bova because I was yes there and I saw several homes that
of course that is why the current, that is where the current swept away. You can see the video. Yes, yes, and yes.
Now, about the construction of houses on waterways, you're a former mayor of Boya town. What can possibly explain the fact that houses are constructed on the waterway, and now the Boya council is destroying the homes and rendering some persons homeless and putting some persons in very difficult situations that could have been avoided if they were not allowed to build houses on the waterways?
I think that there has of late been some negligence and laxity on the part of technical services in this domain. That is why I will not subscribe to the politicization of this problem and this crisis, wherein a government minister would come and exhibit himself in a way that is not essentially focused on a resolution of the problem. If we have the kind of crisis we have, and if we find ourselves in the type of mess we are in, the first thing is to assemble all the ministerial departments that are associated to incidents like this. The first minister to be in town is supposed to be the Minister of Urban Development and Housing. And of course, those of scientific research, those of public works, and of course state property and land tenure.
But the Ministry of Territorial Administration has a department for civil protection.
It has that is, you have put it rightly, civil protection. Civil protection. I tell you, I visited on the next day, there were floods. And damages occurred again. We are saying that if the Minister of Urban Development and Housing comes to town first with our engineers and all the technical components of that ministry, they would better advise. And civil protection will come in alongside this ministry. Public works would come with its equipment. Scientific research will come with its studies. And of course, you know, land tenure will explain where it is possible and appropriate to conduct constructions. The town planning department of the council is not fully equipped to handle major crisis moments like this. No. For instance, we are talking about demolition of houses. What becomes of those who are homeless because of this incident? You think the council has what it takes to house all of these people? You think the council has a way of conducting a refugee type rehabilitation of all of these people? Oh no. So let us be serious here. We should assemble the various ministerial departments that are concerned with incidents like this to come together, rally together, and address the problem at once.
Why should people be allowed to build on waterways, to build in risk zones, and the constructions are going on over 1 month, over years? People are building, and the authorities are watching at them building, and nothing is done. And some of the people are building with building permits. Some of them even have land titles.
You are right. That is where sanctions have to be extended here. It is not the policy of the council for individuals to constitute a risk to the entire population of the community. It is that we have some of our agents who are, I would say, corrupt and tend to enrich themselves through these processes. As a former mayor of Boya, I have lived with that, and I can tell you, if investigations are properly done, you will find people who are using stamps of former council authorities to produce documents that are that have the semblance of genuine documents to undertake the constructions that are littered around the town. But if proper investigation is done, proper scrutiny is done, you will find that every building that is duly registered and approved of by the council must be registered as well in the council registers and be codified. So it is easy to sort out and pick out all of these recalcitrant city developers. We have to do something, and we have to do it very fast. We don't wait for a crisis moment to come and we begin to close the stable gates when the horses are all out.
Now, what should be done for those people who are, first of all, those whose homes have been destroyed in Boya town, and many of them will be stranded now or struggling in one way or the other to get a new accommodation. And then secondly, for those people who are in those risk zones, like in Bova, where the house is constructed just next to, in fact, not far from the waterway, just along the waterway, and some of them are practically hanging because the water came down and dug another hole just adjacent to the waterway that has been there before. And there are some homes that are in the middle. Many of the homes around the area are actually at risk. If something like that were to occur again, it would likely sweep away all those homes, and possibly with people inside. What should be done for these two cases?
Categories of people. I understand, yes, but we have to put a resettlement program alongside every effort that is geared towards addressing the crisis we are living with in Boya today. We have a responsibility to cater for those citizens. These are citizens who have been living with us in Boya. They've paid taxes, they've contributed to the development of the town. They are part and parcel of the community, useful to one another. They've been one another's keeper. We have to add a human touch to our approach to this crisis situation. So I want to believe that the council is aware of that, the authorities are aware of that, and this just has to be put in place. I have talked about ministerial departments who are very equipped and well placed in addressing situations like these ones. They have to come in. We have other bodies within the UN systems that are present in our community today. Non-governmental organizations are around the corner, and of course volunteers who are willing to contribute. It is how we harness all these components, bring them together for a city consultation as quickly as possible, so that the sum total of our thinking and our suggestions can now produce relevant results that can be useful for the community and benefit our community members.
Some of the people who spoke to us in Boya town were actually lamenting over the fact that their sources of livelihood, the business sites, everything damaged.
You are right.
Everything carried away.
We saw that happen.
They are asking for some kind of compensation or aid from government to survive within this crisis period. And some of the people who are in Bova said they want government to relocate, to move out of the danger zone, so to speak.
We feel for all of these community members, as I said. It is sad. It is sad indeed. So much has been lost in terms of property as well as human life. It is such a difficult situation for some of our citizens, and regaining their way of livelihood is going to be a real problem and a challenge for all of them and all of us within the community. But there has to be a mechanism to rally support for all of these people and provide the needed assistance. It is not in word assistance, but it should be in material assistance. But that too will require trust. We should accept that the element of trust is in short supply in our communities. And so we shall need some credible authority or personalities to come out and shoulder the responsibility of putting in place a support system that can guarantee the rehabilitation of these communities and restore some modicum of respect, love, and a happy and fortunate future for all of these people who have been affected. It is a sad situation, but it is not very far from finding a solution to it.
Yeah, you talked of lack of trust, Mr. Senator. Many of the people do not trust their leaders anymore.
Yes.
Why is it so? Their leaders seem to have failed them.
Because at local level, those of us who have been entrusted with leadership have distanced ourselves from the very people who entrusted this leadership to us. We have to stay close by our people so that they understand us. It is what people see, feel, touch, and see that they use in judging leadership. Leadership that must be associated with love, humility, and integrity. That is what, as I said, is in a deficit in leadership around us today. But it doesn't mean that there are no individuals who possess such qualities in these same communities. You don't need to be a senator to be that type of a leader. No. There is leadership that is in people of our community. Leadership that kind of leadership that enjoys trust. That kind of leadership that should not be neglected but has been neglected. This is the time for such to emerge and show leadership and exercise this kind of outreach that should restore hope in our affected communities. You were right when you found out all of this in these affected communities from Bova, from Vasingi, Mukunda, Wondongo, Bonalionga, and the central township area of Boya Town. It is a problem. It is a catastrophe, and if you get to the depths of what is happening in those communities, you can weep and cry for the sufferings of those
concerned. The last time we had a discussion on this, you were talking about the coming together of the people of Boya, of all the living forces, to be able to map out appropriate solutions to this problem and many others that are affecting community life here in Boya. How urgent is such a gathering, and how should it be done to get the expected result?
Babila, it is the urgency of the moment now. It is what I called city consultations, or if you like, a town hall meeting that should not discriminate, that should allow for free thinking and free expression. In doing so, you need to bring the various components together and allow. It is not, as I said, not the senator, not the mayor, not the GO Boya. We have people who are not implicated in the political complications of our society, but who are looked upon as people who can deliver, people who are respected, and people who can be listened to. Such people are in our communities. We know them. We should not pretend. The one does not take something from the other if it does some good for the general good. It is that we should allow the various talents, the various qualities that we have in our population to flourish and be plowed back to this community for the good of all of us.
Right.
Such a sitting, we had done it before when I was in office as a mayor. I can tell you, at the time, the sitting was chaired by a prominent opposition authority in town, the distinguished Professor Ndiva Kofele Kale. And the results are still there today. That is why we have this environment in which we are conducting this interview. It came as an outcome of that sitting. That is how we arrested the floods we had in town at that time and proposed to government that the town of Boya should be canalized. That is how we resorted to a massive tree planting exercise. That is why the people of Boya are enjoying the trees along their streets. We improved on the greenery and worked for the protection of our reserve. For those who have traveled around the world, a reserve like the Amazon forest in Latin America is a very useful entity in a modern community. It will address the challenges of climate change, and it will uphold the policy of protection of the environment.
Right.
So all of this constituted the outcome of our city consultations, a town hall meeting. We are blessed as a city, Boya, to be located within a majestic mountain, Mount Cameroon de Faku, and of course, the Great Atlantics, where we have this natural flow of beautiful streams with sparkling waters and the green forest, the flora and the fauna. We cannot target these very natural environments for destruction and endanger our human lives. Those trees along the slopes of the mountain in our reserves were believed to capture these heavy flows from the mountain and serve as a defense mechanism for our populations. Today, they are all targeted for destruction in this name of land grabbing and self-enrichment and, you know, the very unscrupulous exhibition of wealth from certain individuals at the expense of our city dwellers.
Land grabbing would be a topic for another. We'll go to the newsstands right now. We'll take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. Immaculate Fogwe with the press review.
As reported by The Horizon, severe floods kill at least 2 in Boya, chief town of the southwest region. Homes, roads and business premises were affected. The post highlights the promises of the mayor to demolish houses built on drainage patterns in order to curb urban disorder and put an end to floods in the town of Boya. Municipal updates. After deadly floods, Boya mayor embarks on mass demolition. Cameroon Insider says Boya flood disaster, victims get government support. Municipal update says 1 dies and 26 others injured in an accident on the Kumba-Boya road. Another edition of Municipal Updates reports crisis in the northwest and southwest regions. U.S. court jails 3 armed smugglers. The Garden Post explains how the U.S. is intensifying crackdown on separatist sponsors who are trafficking arms and fuel to the northwest and southwest regions. The Voice Weekender, rebuilding war-torn Anglophone regions. Steering committee chair hails southwest population for embracing reconstruction plan. As reported by Cameron Echoes, Bakundu chiefs crown Benjamin Ito paramount ruler. The Guardian Post exclaims, President Paul Biya violates law as he is yet to call for by-elections to replace 12 MPs who have died within the current legislature as provided by the Electoral Code. Cameroon Tribune hails the ruling CPDM party for unsurprisingly winning all 70 seats during the March 12 senatorial elections.
Thank you, Immaculate Fogwe, for the press review. Now we're going to talk about the Senate, the upper house of the Parliament of the Republic of Cameroon, and the 2023 senatorial election, as I said earlier, gave the ruling CPDM political party a sweeping victory, all the 70 elected seats. And now in the hands of the CPDM, Mr. Senator.
Well,
when you look at this, I know that you should be proud and happy about the political strength of the CPDM. But democratically speaking, is it a good thing that all the 70 elected seats of an important institution like the Senate is occupied by the ruling party? That can simply mean that there will be no contradiction per se in the debate at the level of the Senate.
Babila, I want to thank you very much for bringing me back to this topic. I am sure and certain that I would have loved to see a Senate with different colors. That is the wish of the President of the Republic and Head of State, His Excellency Paul Biya. That is why in 2013, when the CPDM was headed towards a capture of the 70 seats, he, on his instructions and magnanimity, kind of allowed the SGF to run with its senators in the Adamawa region, where they did not have a single councillor, and of course in the West region, where the CPDM had a strong backing. And so the SGF came out with a group in the Senate. But you cannot continue to pamper the opposition. It is not the CPDM that told the opposition not to capture local councils or regional councils. We have cases where opposition councils went in to vote for CPDM in these elections.
No, Mr. Senator, we know that politics is a game of interest.
I agree with you, Babila.
Was that gift free from interest?
Well, we could have as well had the 70 seats in 2013. But this is the way, as a party that has a culture of democracy and fair competition, we thought the institution should begin with this mix. And that is how we began.
Now we are practically going back to a kind of one-party system.
This time we said, let us, haven't had the opposition for this number of years, and lived with the claims the opposition is making. Let us allow a level playing field. That was done. And of course, we as a party, judged from its strength on the ground in the councils, local councils and regional councils, the outcome is there. It is not yet over. The
head of state is
yet to appoint 30 of them. He may decide to appoint the 30 all from opposition parties. The ball is in his court. Yes, it is part of the democratic process, like upper houses and senates around the world. in much more developed democracies, even in Great Britain, you have members appointed to the House of Lords. Not all of them are elected. So we should draw lessons from this. We should stop giving the CPDM this bad and negative coloration. It is a democratic party. I came into the CPDM through a democratic process as mayor. I was re-elected through a democratic process, very tumultuous democratic processes that I went through. I went to the Senate through a democratic process. This time around, I did not just have an easy walk into the Senate. It was a very challenging process. And this is why...
Even though there was no opponent?
Even though I think that the competition within the CPDM itself was even more challenging and more stiff, was stiffer than what we call the opposition and the CPDM. And so we have to draw lessons from all of this and develop ourselves, equip ourselves, and cause this country to move forward. Cameroon is a very beautiful country, blessed with a gifted leader, a legalist, one who believes that Cameroonians can develop progressively in an evolution within its political system and not a revolution.
Mr. Senator, so when we move from a multicolored Senate and we seem to be moving, because the head of state is yet to appoint the others, as you said, he can decide to appoint all of them from the opposition, but we know that there are many who will likely be appointed from the CPDM. But when we begin to move from a Senate with the 70 elected seats shared between the ruling party and the opposition to a situation where all the elected seats are now occupied by the ruling party, is that progress?
I think it is progress. It is progress in one way, because there is nothing wrong in fixing what is bad with what is right. I can tell you the opposition had an opportunity to govern this country, but they did not manage it well. If they had managed it well, they would have been, look, you don't get into politics with a stone-throwing following, one that resorts to violence in the pursuit of their goals. No, Cameroonians will reject you. The Cameroonian people have spoken. Let us respect the voice of our electorate. They made the right choice. I think they saw what was good in the CPDM and preferred to go with the devil they knew than the angel they did not know. And so I am personally very grateful for the outcome and proud of my party. I am solely committed to the party, remain loyal to that party, and believe that I have a duty to be held down to deliver. And I call on my electorate and the Cameroonian people to hold me to account as I enter this third mandate in the Senate. I have no skeletons in my cupboard. I am proud to say that service delivery is a challenge that I embrace with all humility, and I am prepared to execute with dignity, commitment, and dedication to country and to the people who extended their vote to me.
Yes, but that seems not to be true for other senators and the institution as a whole. The last two mandates, when we talk to the people on ground, the impact is not felt. The impact of the Senate is not felt. In many constituencies, in many parts of the country, in big cities like in the hinterlands, it's even worse in the hinterlands. The people do not know even their senators. They don't know their names. They have not seen them. So now that that has practically been the case for the past 2 mandates with a multicolored Senate, now that the Senate is going to be very much close to a one-color Senate, what should the people expect from that Senate? Can they expect something?
Your assessment is that of an analyst, a journalist who conducts checks in public officials. You don't expect us to score 100% performance at all times. We may have had some isolated cases, but that should not be used to color the CPDM and the Senate as a failure. I would also want you to talk about the silver lining on your dark cloud, because every cloud, and particularly every dark cloud, like the one you tend to uphold now, also has its silver lining. I am proud to be a senator from the Southwest, and particularly from Fako Division, and precisely from Boya. I conduct a listening tour in my constituency at particular moments to do an assessment of my performance indicators. And it gives me satisfaction and great relief that I hear what the constituents say, and I value their appreciation. It is like this for me and elsewhere as well. That is the Senate. And that is what brings value, added value, to the Senate as an institution. So this institution enriches our democracy and allows for the democratic culture of our country to flourish. We should be thankful to the framers of our Constitution who had included this institution in the Constitution. And the onus is on us to make it work, to make it succeed, and to make it be relevant to the Cameroonian setup of democratic institutions.
Friday, 24th of March, 2023, last Friday,
yes,
the CPDM, you and your comrades celebrating 38 years of existence.
Yes.
In a country where, according to some analysts, the socio-political and economic situation of the people has been going down the drain for the past 4 decades, that the head of state, the current president, Paul Biya, who is the president of your political party, the CPDM, has been ruling. What were you celebrating, Mr. Senior?
Fine. Thank you for your analysis. It is true that the CPDM has been in the limelight and at the forefront in the politics of this country for almost half a century. I want to imagine that we have succeeded this far. If you want to judge the CPDM in a country like Cameroon, you should also judge what is happening around our country and around the world with political structures like the CPDM. So far, we have been able to uphold stability and continuity in our country. We should thank God for that. We have had to grapple with some challenges, but they have not succeeded in breaking the country down. And we are moving on. We should be grateful to God that this country has been more stable than most countries around the world. That we recently saw in the Americas how those who claim to own democratic practice exhibited very primitive behavior because of electoral processes. In Cameroon, we have had our share, but the extent to which we have succeeded has depended on how well all of that has been managed by a political structure called the CPDM. So that gives us reason to celebrate. We celebrate our successes. We celebrate our leadership. We celebrate what is good in the CPDM and how it has brought happiness and satisfaction to a greater part of public life in our country. We have no scales over our eyes as we conduct this celebration, but we do so with the hope that by the grace of God and the wishes of the good citizens of this country, we can continue like this and even do better than we had done before. So that is our belief, that is our hope, and we remain very true to ourselves.
Mr. Senator, if you want to take the example of Nigeria next to us.
Yeah.
Democratically speaking, Nigeria is far advanced.
Yes.
Far ahead of Cameroon.
I agree with you.
Nigeria recently had 3 elections.
Yes.
Presidential, senatorial, and House representative.
Yes.
And on the evening of election day, the result of the House representatives, the senatorial, was already on the portal of INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Yes.
It was already published practically, and then the presidential stayed for less than 4 days, just about 3 days, and the people were really complaining that it stayed too long.
Yeah.
But in Cameroon, we are still talking about an issue of 2 weeks and more for the result of the polling units, the polling stations to be known. Before we know the national...
Babylon, should you compare the chaos? Should you compare the chaos we saw in Nigeria and what we see in Cameroon? That advanced level of their electoral processes or democratic practice in Nigeria has not been properly managed. There is no way you can equate the loss of human life to an advanced democracy. In Cameroon, we have preserved human life. We have tried as much as possible to methodically rebuild, build, restructure, and structure our democracy in such a way that at the end of the day, Cameroonians can afford to live in peace and in harmony with each other. That is the most essential element in our democratic culture, that the president of the country, the president of the republic, the head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya, has attached a lot of concern on keeping the peace in the country. This man, to the best of my knowledge and in my reading of his personality, is humane and values every Cameroonian. He's not at peace when he finds part of the country agitating and reacting in a way that can be costly to a single Cameroonian.
So what explains, Mr. Senator,
yes,
the fact that for over 6 years today, and despite the calls from political leaders of the opposition, the civil society, human rights defenders, the head of state, who is restless, as you say, because of the sufferings of the people,
yes,
in the northwest and southwest and other parts of the country, has not visited these 2 regions even once to encounter the people, to talk to the people directly.
The President of the Republic has his way, and we have a right to have our say. He takes into account all of what we say and all of what we worry about, and has an approach of conflict resolution that you and I may not understand, but it works. Today, every right-thinking Cameroonian can agree that what was seen at the peak of this crisis is no longer the same today. Children go to school, we travel freely, we operate freely. Citizens in these two regions are beginning to regain their freedoms and can afford to live in peace. Economic activity is regaining grounds in these two regions. Public investment is ongoing in these two regions. It was not the case before. And I think that, as I said before, it is a methodic and gradual return to peace. And all of this has been championed by his choice of a servant he has in the person of a calm, level-headed Prime Minister who is a very likable personality, accepted by even the radical voices in these conflict regions. So the president is a president who is attentive to the cries and worries of the Cameroonian people.
That's why, Mr. Senator, before we go, because of the extreme poverty hitting the man down there, because of the difficult socio-economic situation in which a good chunk of the population of Cameroon is today, because of insecurity, not only in these two regions affected by socio-political and security tension, but also up north and in other parts of the country, even in the littoral, in Douala, in the major cities, because of the use of extreme military force on the ground in efforts to stop cessationist activities in these two regions, northwest and southwest, because the head of state has not come to meet these people. Many are not seeing the head of state in the same perspective as you do.
Babila, you talk of extreme use of force. Look, it is Chino Achebe who said, if the birds learn to fly without perching, men will learn to shoot without missing. Away from that, we highlight the extreme use of force by our military. I will also expect you, journalists, to vehemently condemn the burying alive of the chairman of the church in Chang, in which case eyewitnesses testified that individuals tied his hands behind, asked his family members to dig a shallow grave, pushed him inside and buried him alive. People who do things like this, what do you think they deserve? Tell me. We cannot live with this kind of human beings in our community. We cannot. We should condemn this outrightly. It should not be the way of, this is not typical of Cameroon. And so, the head of state has extended an olive branch. He has sent emissaries of peace to preach peace. All of us have carried this message of peace. The head of state has gone even an extra mile to pronounce forgiveness by creating the rehabilitation centers for ex-convicts. We need to embrace peace. We need to pursue the path of peace.
Senator Bela Moki-Charles, thank you so much for accepting to talk to us today.
It was a pleasure being with you again, Babila. I want to use this opportunity offered to me by your outfit to extend my gratitude, my sincere thanks and appreciation to the community members who formulated the electoral college that gave me another mandate in the Cameroonian Senate. I must be frank to say that they gave me an opportunity to lead a better life for the period that I've been in public service, and an opportunity to render service, which service I've rendered with great distinction to my people, and hope to do even better, correct whatever mistake I have committed in the past, in ensuring that I should afford to bring happiness and satisfaction to the people who look up to me during these 5 years that I have in my hands.
Joining us today, Musoke Lucas Lyonga is a civil society leader, modern nation builder, as he calls himself, and he's the founder and executive director of Excellence Business Network, a contemporary international business organization. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be at Inside once more.
Right. Now, you call yourself modern nation builder. Why modern nation builder?
Yeah, it's modern nation builder because we are looking at the new ways in which the world is evolving. The world has become a global village. The world has become a digital space. The world is now experiencing what we call the digital revolution. So when we are building the nations today, we take into consideration the evolution of life, the evolution of technology, the evolution of economies, and the evolution even of politics. So we are not building nations again from a traditional perspective, whereby we call it nation building. We now build nations from a modern perspective, taking into consideration the modern tools that are available to be able to build a nation, build a youth, build a people. So that's why I call myself a modern nation builder, because I work with modern tools and modern strategies and modern methods. So it's no longer a traditional as it has been in the past, because we are now living in the information age and a lot is changing very fast. But the problem is that a good number of youths, many youths, especially African youths, are lost. They are not understanding the fast change, the technological advancement that is happening and taking place in the world today. So if you wish to build a nation today for it to succeed, it should be from the perspective of a modern nation building. That is why I talk about modern nation builder.
Right.
Yes.
Now, modern nation building using modern technologies. How are you inculcating these ideas into young people in particular? How are you transmitting these ideas to the institutions, the leaders, the authorities who are supposed to? Because when we look at what's happening today in our country, we have the impression that we are still using a lot of archaic methods, archaic strategies, archaic institutions, and some outdated methods of doing things, trying to solve the problems of today.
Yes, I wish to use this platform to say that we've created what we call the African School of Greatness. It does not exist. We have created it. And this African School of Greatness is to train over at least 100 million African youths to help them, show them, bring them to a platform and expose the realities of the world in which we live today. The world has changed. The reality of the world today has really, really baffled even the developed nations. The world has so much evolved. Then there's what we call the necessary and sufficient conditions. Most African countries have been using the necessary conditions, but the evolution of the world makes it gives us the room to bring in the sufficient conditions. The sufficient condition is this modern condition that is necessary to be brought in to fill up the gap that have been created by having only the necessary conditions. So these sufficient conditions are these modern conditions, modern methods, modern strategies that especially fall into the issue of the digital space, the digital technology, the digital world, the digital economy, and so on. So this is where things are moving to. And we also have what we call the biotech. Biotech is a lot of research that's going on in the area of biology, the human nature, and so on, how to handle human beings. And when this work is completed, it will lead to what we call a serious unemployment, a blackout, a serious unemployment drought that is going to happen. So biotech and infotech are areas that are actually doing a lot now. So we need to let youths to know that when they are building their career today, they should take into consideration the fact that they should look at 30 to 50 years ahead of them. What can the world become? These issues have already been projected. Are the youths aware of all this? No, they are not aware. Most of the archaic method of career building today are obsolete. We need to show youths the modern way of building a career. Show youth what they must know. Youth must become digital, no matter your area. You have to be digital. You have to be digitally sensitive. We talk of artificial intelligence. A lot of things are being worked on where machines will take over a lot of things. And if human beings are not careful, they will be left behind. So young people have to be conscious of this. So that when they are building their career, they should build their career and take into consideration modern inputs so that they should not become illiterate, though living in a literate world in which we find ourselves today. Yeah.
Now, let's now come to the town of Buea. Last week we were zooming in on the town of Bamenda, capital of the Northwest region, one of the two English-speaking regions hit by socio-political tensions for over 6 years today. And today we are in Buea. Before we get to talk about the recent happenings in Buea, you are living here in Buea. What's the socio-political and security climate of the town of Buea today? What's the state of the town of Buea?
Yes, I would say that the state of the town of Buea is calm. The town of Buea has been a peaceful town for all this while. And when the crisis or the conflict arose, a lot of things went wrong, a lot of things went offhand. And we wish to say that a lot needs to be done by the government to make sure that the other neighboring towns, because Buea alone as the central may claim to have some little peace and some little calmness, but all the neighboring towns are not having it that easy. So Buea alone cannot be considered as peaceful when your neighbors are not actually having it that easy. Peace is not actually reigning in the neighborhood, including the Buea itself, because you find a lot of movement of military security forces and so on. And one of the things which I came to realize around is that there's a lot of harassment. A lot of security officers, let this point go out clearly, have taken advantage of the ongoing conflict and crisis, and they are harassing a lot of young people, especially students. Students are being harassed left and right in Buea, which is not a good thing. And I think that, so I may not really say that Buea is in a very good state the way it was. Buea, people are still living in a lot of fear. People are still living in a lot of skepticism, and people are seeing things to be very, very uncertain. Because time and again you hear gunshots, time and again you hear that they have captured this one here, time and again you hear that they have arrested so many youths and they have carried them, and so on. There's a lot of disorder. Like there was just a group of young people were arrested of recent who were playing football in a corner, not having committed any crime. People were playing football, they just came and arrested all of them, and it brought a lot of confusion left and right. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a problem, and Buea is not left out of that problem, despite the fact that it is a little bit calmer than it was when this crisis just erupted. But Buea is still under fear, is still under some atmosphere of uncertainty. People don't know what may happen next because there is an ongoing conflict or crisis that has not yet been resolved. And Buea is involved in the areas in which this crisis or this conflict is ongoing.
There's been a lot of talking about peace and so on. And we may be repeating what we have been talking since. But it is often said that repetition is important at a certain point. What should be done by government now so that we can go back to the way the northwest and the southwest regions were before late 2016? Not necessarily go back there, but so that we can have a restoration of peace, true peace in these two regions.
The answer is very simple. Let there be a just dialogue with, I wish to say it again, with a third party mediation. And it should not hold in Cameroon. It should hold in a country of trust. Because you have a lot of individuals who were involved in this crisis or this conflict who have been arrested and locked up. So nobody can trust the space. So it should be a neutral space that people can trust the fact that if they come to that neutral space, that neutral country, then they can sit on the table of dialogue with an authentic and authority and recognized third party to talk about justice first. It is justice. When justice is rendered in a situation, then peace will follow. Peace is automatic when justice is established. So there is supposed to be established justice. There have been a lot of complaints that have been raised by the separatists, the fighters and the rest. Let these things be looked into. Those that are irrelevant are pushed aside. Those that are relevant, they look into them and look for agreed solutions. We are brothers and sisters. We are all Cameroonians. If there have been a problem, even if it took 100 years ago, today we can sit down and resolve the problem.
Let's talk about the recent flooding that hit some parts of the town of Buea town, Bova village. A lot of material damage, destruction, massive destruction recorded, and of course deaths also. These 3 persons said to have died in that flooding. The Yakamene water catchment completely destroyed, and the people of Buea town have had no water running in the taps for since that incident happened last Saturday. Now, what's your take about this incident that occurred and the destruction that resulted from it?
Yes, I wish to say that prevention is better than cure, and administrative authorities in Buea should do their job well. I wish to explain this. The water tracks in Buea for these rainwaters is known, and for some time now a lot has been done to frustrate these water tracks. Some people have constructed on the water tracks, some have reduced the track for their own activities and so on, and the authorities are aware. It's not like they are not aware, so they have not prevented. That's why I say prevention is better than cure. A lot would have been done by administration, by the authorities in place, to make sure that these water tracks are cleared, so that when it rains and it happens that there is flooding whatsoever, let this track actually do its job, its work. We have never had this. All this is caused by the fact that the water tracks are not free for free flow. The water tracks have been affected by either construction or one activity or the other. So authorities were supposed to prevent and make sure that people, human beings, don't interfere with the tracks, these tracks where water usually flows. So that is what has led to all what we are seeing today, that these lives have been lost. Why? Because prevention measures were not put in place. So you cannot come and be breaking houses which you would have prevented from being constructed. Then you come today, you say you are breaking down houses. Where were you when those houses were built? And when the houses have been built, didn't you see the houses? These are some realities. You saw the houses. You know that those houses are there. They are built on the track. Then you come today to say that you are breaking the houses, which you already saw, and you know that these houses have been built on the track of water.
No, where we are today, the Council of Buea has been breaking those houses along the waterway, particularly in Buea town. Isn't it a solution, even though it may be coming late? It is often said better late than never.
No, it's not a solution, because it's a destructive solution. You don't come up with a destructive solution when you would have prevented. Now you render many people homeless, which you would have prevented them from being homeless by refusing and rejecting, and be firm to the fact that they should not construct, and make sure that they don't construct, so that they should go and construct elsewhere. You would have prevented and helped the situation. Now you have put people into pains and cry. That is not a solution. A solution should not lead people into pains and crying and mourning, and people become homeless. You have not solved any problem. You would have solved this problem by making sure that they don't build into those tracks, that they don't carry on activities along those tracks. That would have been a solution. But you don't come and destroy houses that people have spent a lot of money and built and people are living in. Then you say that that's a solution. That is what we call a destructive solution, which is not good, in as much as it's being done and must be done, because it is a way out, so that further casualties should not be realized in future. But now see the pains in which you are placing the people. Is the government going to compensate these people and give them money to go and build elsewhere or relocate? That is hardly done.
That is where I was going to come in, because there are many of those who saw their homes destroyed, even in Bova village. There are many who are still at risk, even as we speak now. Their homes are at the verge of being carried away. If anything like what happened last Saturday were to repeat itself, that kind of flooding, many of the homes will simply be swept away in Bova village, and the people are living in fear, uncertainty. They are crying out to the administration, but nothing has been done till now for those people who are in insecurity today because of what happened.
Yes, that's why I say we have been living in Cameroon for long. We are Cameroonians. It is an illusion to have seen situations where people have been truly compensated to be able to relocate, rebuild a new house, and start a new life. It's usually in the air, it's usually noise, and at the tail end, they share a little bit of rice and mattresses for people to do what with it. They are giving you rice and some few clothing, whatsoever, to do what with it when you are homeless. So I think that these are the situations where government would have intervened immediately, and immediate solution is brought into place. Let the people be compensated. Let government itself, if the people, if they are like probably shy or whatsoever, giving money to the people, the government can construct for the people. They can say, okay, we will build you people low-cost houses and we'll send you people to go and live there. Talking in the air, we have seen many things happen in this country, and it will be said as a slogan that people will be compensated. They will never be compensated. And one is not sure that this situation will not be the same, because people have hardly seen themselves rescued.
What should be done as a matter of urgency for those people in Bova village?
Yes, the people who have lost homes and so on, government should intervene and let these people be given compensation, or given the possibility of starting new lives. They might be
should be relocated.
They might be temporarily relocated somewhere else while construction is going on their behalf, and they should move into those places. This is what a government is supposed to be doing. A government should be able to quickly come in and rescue citizens, because these are the citizens that make up a nation. If they don't exist, no nation exists. So let's not continue to take things lightly and political all the time. We see drama left and right, and at the end, nothing is done.
Now, about the haphazard construction of houses in the town of Boya, when we look at some of the areas like in Boya town, around Bova village, we have people constructing in places that are marked as risk zones, where normally people are not supposed to be constructing there, close to the mountain, and so on and so forth. What should be done about this to avoid? Because if something greater were to happen, landslide, mud flow, that would be there will be catastrophe there.
The council is not doing her job. The council is not doing her job. If the council was doing her job, people will not construct in such places. Or if people construct in such places stubbornly, it is demolished. You don't wait when there is a problem, a hazard, a flood, then you start going breaking houses. No. What is the council doing now? They are aware of that. They are aware of those places. And we need to stop, because there is a lot of allegations that a lot of these individuals are very corrupt, and that individuals bribe to build in some funny places. People have confessed that they pay money. So there is also corruption involved. To see some people who build in some type of places, there is corruption. So this needs to be investigated. But what I'm trying to say is that the council is not doing her job. The council is not doing her job, and the council should also be held responsible. How did people construct there, and you allow them to opt in now before you are breaking those homes? Didn't you see those houses there? Why should you wait for a flood to come first and destroy before you are going out and breaking homes? This is illogical. The council was supposed to have done that. Even as we are talking now, there are still some houses built in places that are not supposed to be there. But the council will still sit down again. When there's another flood again, they go out again. Please, let's stop deceiving ourselves. The council should sit up. The council should do her job. The council should do her work. The council is there for the people. If you see that something is not correct, help the people correct it before it's too late, like now. So I think that the council should be held responsible also for not being a custodian, a good custodian of the people. Because if the council was a custodian, they would have prevented this. They would have made sure that the water track is clear and well protected in a way that when the water comes down, it goes down clearly. So when you are talking now and you say that they are breaking down houses, they are breaking down this and the rest, they are punishing people. They are not happy, they are punishing them, because the resources that they have invested there could have been invested elsewhere if they were guided and directed.
All right. We're going to take some interviews right now, and when we come back, we'll talk about the upper house of Parliament of the Republic of Cameroon.
Before, we have been witnessing water here around here, but the one that came this year is more than us. We could not even, it is a thing that we could not even explain. But all, if you look around the place, you see that we are not living with a confidence, because we don't even know. It may be at night, it will come like this and take everybody that is around. So as we are here, we are pleading that people should help us, because we don't even have a place that we could even go. Like me, I have 7 children with a husband, and now they are all in school. But if you look my house now, for me to go and buy another plot or tell me to go another way, it's difficult for me. So all I could say is to plead for people to help us. Because when I look all over the place, even up there, they have scattered the whole of that place. Water that scattered like this. All of us, we are about 4 or 5 houses here that water came inside and it's destroyed all the things that we have. By the school children, they took all their items. If their books, textbook, uniform, all the things they went, even pots to cook, mattress, all of them were soaked with water and mud. So we are afraid to live even around this place. As we are here like this, we are afraid to leave. Even my husband, if you look at him, just that he's not around the house now, he has already pale. If you look, he's having his chest up because when he looks around his place, he's afraid to live with his children. Maybe all of us will leave the house and go. We don't know what will happen behind. Whether you come and meet the children or you will not even meet them again. Even the house, we don't even know if the next water that will come will take the house away. Because just look around, the place has already been destroyed. The ground that is there is not even solid again, so we are afraid to leave the place.
I already cry now. Say me ademi so I be wood. My papa na truth man. We don't be for down. We not go we no help. I want what that they even showing us some land or house. My God, the manage I be wood. I no get me brother.
I've not received any aids, any assistance from anybody yet, nothing yet. I want to really plead for the authority, the government, the NGOs, the company, individuals. I'm pleading with them that they should help me financially because this is all about me. I'm a father of 5 children and this is my daily bread. This is where I get my daily bread with a life. I'm pleading for everyone, the government, the NGO, the companies to assist me. I'm dealing with agro inputs. I'm dealing agricultural, that is farmers' products. That's what I'm selling. The water carried everything away. So I'm pleading that I need help from people.
For how long have you been doing business here?
I've been here since has been for more than 18 years. This place has been for long. Even before I was born, this building was here. This building was here before I was born. So the issue is that other people came behind us by our side and built on the waterways. That is the problem. So now when the water comes, now I have to divert it to our own side, to our own building. So this building is older than me. This building is older than me. So people came and built on the waterways. So that is the effect. That is why the thing affected us. The building is older than me. I'm 50-something years now. The building is older than me.
I live around the Bondongo area. This place called Bondongo. This Liangamene. This is where we used to carry water to fetch water in this community. But since this water slope have come down like this, we have no means of water. Yeah, that's why we are carrying water here. This is where the catchment for the water. We used to supply all this village down here. Yeah, so from now we don't know how to do it again. We are just managing now to carry water here this ground.
So since the accident happened like that, every pipe have been broken, so we don't have water. So that's why we decided to come and manage for the one that's have been settled. So we cannot even go up to the stone because we are afraid that the stone can come down and hit somebody.
Those were interviews of the week. Now, the senatorial election of 2023 in Cameroon just took place and the results have been made public. The ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party, has obtained, got all the 70 elected seats in the upper house of parliament, and the head of state is yet to appoint 30 others to complete the number. When you look at this result of the senatorial election, with the CPDM taking everything, practically everything, all the elected seats, and then the fact that is the head of state, who is the national president of the CPDM, and who will appoint the other 30, and he will definitely appoint some people within the ranks of the CPDM. What do you think about the nature, the structure of this very important institution, the second institution after the presidency of the Republic, and the impact that it's supposed to bring to the people when it's largely dominated by the ruling party?
Yes, I have two challenges here. The first challenge which I have in the first place is that we don't have an independent electoral body in Cameroon. What we have in Cameroon as electoral body is dominated by the same former members of the ruling APDM, and they are the ones in power. So I think that unless and until we are going to have an independent electoral body in Cameroon, any outcome of any election will be so doubtful and people will not believe it. That's the first thing. So whatsoever is coming out of a body that is not independent, for example, we need a body that can on its own run election, not influenced by any party. The members therein are not appointed by the ruling party or the president of the republic, but they are selected from the sphere of life, given the input of all political parties. These persons are brought in, and these are people of integrity, high integrity, that are known to run such a body called ELECAM. So you cannot put water in a bottle and expect that when you pour it out, you will have drink. It's Christ alone.
Only Jesus can do that.
That miracle. It is the same water that's going to come out. So when you put CPDM in a bottle and you pour it out, what you will have is CPDM. So I'm not surprised to have this, to hear that the CPDM has 70 seats. It's normal, because they are the ones that control the elections. Yes. Coming now to the issue of senators.
And also because the election was an indirect election in Cameroon. The senatorial election is an indirect election, and the number of councillors of the party will definitely influence the outcome. Yeah, no, and the CPDM has a greater majority of the...
Even if the councillors were not CPDM councillors, I wish to say again that he that controls the election can still do whatsoever he or she can do. We see it elsewhere. There's what we call rigging of elections. It's done. It happens in many places. So you cannot be a player and the referee at the same time. The referee should be independent of the players. The CPDM itself is a player. Other parties are players. Then how can the referee be the CPDM?
The referee is Elections Cameroon,
not the CPDM, because these are former members of the CPDM. We all know them. They are former members of the CPDM, as they call themselves, but they are not former. They are still CPDM members. So they are CPDM members. So you cannot say that they are no longer CPDM. And this is one thing which was said some years back. One of them was interviewed on Cameroon Calling, that have you truly resigned from the CPD? They say, yes, I've resigned from the head, but not from my heart. So we cannot be deceived. This is a modern generation where things must be modern.
Right. The heart can only be only God can know what is in the heart, yes. Unless the person speaks it out to you, like the person you're talking about now. But officially we know that the members of Elections Cameroon do not belong to any political party. They are out of partisan politics, and they are consecrated for that work of elections. Okay. Now, when you look at the structure of the Senate, a Senate that is dominated by the ruling party, some are saying that we are almost going back to the single party system, to the one party system that existed at the time of President Amadou Ahidjo. Can that Senate produce the impact it's supposed to produce in the nation, in terms of lawmaking, in terms of influencing the national life in all perspectives?
It still comes back to what I said. I said, if a body is not independent and does not have its power and autonomy, that body is irrelevant. The Senate does not have an autonomous power on its own. The head of state has power. The head of state appoints senators who become senators. So that the whole issue of senators have a problem, especially in a nation that is still limping in the issues of democracy. It's still limping in the issues of democracy. So if we were to have senators, we were to have individuals that are independent, even in their own lives, then they are men and women of integrity that are found in political parties, as the thing should be. And these people should be people of high level trust and competent, who should be senators. And we should be very honest. We have had these senators for a while now. What have they done? It's as if they do not exist. It's as if they do not exist, because I don't see the difference between the time where there were no senators and now that we have had senators for a number of years. I've not seen any change, anything that has been brought up by senator influence that has changed the life of the republic. So let's not put slogan bodies in place that have virtually no power, no authority to give out to the people, to normal.
Something that we should just forgive. And,
yes,
and let go the destruction.
Forgiveness comes after justice. You cannot truly forgive in injustice. That's one truth. You cannot easily forgive in injustice. You can truly forgive and let go when justice is rendered. And what is the justice here? Is the dialogue. The independent dialogue with an independent third party. I put a nail on that, an independent third party, so that it brings trust.
But you're putting a nail on something that others consider as not the best way to go about this issue, highlighting, for example, the situation of a matrimonial home, a problem between a husband and a wife. A third party shouldn't come in. That's what they're saying. People like the city mayor of Bamenda will tell you that no, a third party shouldn't come into a matrimonial home.
We need a third party because the thing has gone off hand and it has gone off boundary.
Musoke Lucas Lionga, civil society leader, modern nation builder. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm once more delighted to be at Equinoxe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Goodbye.